Hey there, and welcome to Tales by June, where hearts break, heal, and sometimes seek revenge. Let's begin today's story.
Hey, before we begin, let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. I never thought my life would turn into the kind of story people whisper about. You know those stories you see online, the ones where the man betrays the woman with someone close to her and you think, that could never be me. Well, it happened to me. And the worst part? He left me for my sister. Yeah, my own sister. The girl who grew up sharing my room, my clothes, my secrets. The one I protected from bullies, helped with her homework, covered for when she broke curfew. She was supposed to be family, not the reason my heart shattered into pieces. I'm not telling this story for sympathy. I'm telling it because sometimes betrayal doesn't destroy you. It shapes you. It burns you down to ashes, so you can rise again, stronger, colder, and smarter than before. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of how I lost everything I loved and how I got it all back. Without them. Back then, I thought I had it all figured out. A stable job in a marketing firm downtown, a cozy apartment I decorated myself, and a boyfriend. The kind people described as too good to be true. His name was Ryan Blake. He was handsome, charming, confident, the kind of man who made you feel safe when he wrapped his arms around you. We'd been together for 3 years, and I honestly believed he was the one. When I talked about the future, I always said we. We'd buy a house someday. We'd travel. We'd have a dog. We'd build a life together. But what I didn't realize was that while I was building dreams, they were building secrets. The day everything fell apart still feels like a blur, like a scene I've replayed too many times in my head, trying to find the exact moment when everything started going wrong. But maybe the truth is, it started long before I ever noticed. You see, betrayal never happens suddenly. It begins quietly, with small things. A change in tone. A delayed reply, a look you can't quite explain. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. I used to think my sister, Lily, was my best friend. She was 2 years younger than me, spontaneous, fun, the kind of girl everyone noticed when she walked into a room. We were opposites in every way. I was the responsible one, the planner, the fixer. She was the free spirit, unpredictable, but lovable. And Ryan, he used to say that was what he admired most about me. My stability, my loyalty. Funny, right? Because in the end, those were the very things that made it easy for them to betray me. Sometimes I think back to the night it all began. The night I invited Ryan to a small family dinner at my parents' house. Lily was home from college. I remember she wore a red dress that made her look like she was glowing. Ryan couldn't stop smiling at her jokes. And I told myself it was nothing. Because why would my boyfriend look at my sister that way? I brushed it off. I trusted them both. I loved them both. If only I'd known that trust was the weapon they'd use to break me. But I'll get to that. First, let me tell you how it all started. When I still believed love could never turn cruel. Back then, my life looked almost perfect from the outside. I had just turned 28, and for the first time, I felt like I was standing on my own 2 feet. I worked as a marketing coordinator for a fashion company in downtown Chicago, the kind of job that looked glamorous to outsiders, but really meant long hours, endless coffee, and last-minute campaigns. Still, I loved it. I loved being part of something creative, watching ideas turn into billboards and commercials. Ryan was proud of me. At least, that's what he used to say. He was a financial analyst, smart, good with numbers, confident in that steady, calculated way. The type of man who never raised his voice, who always seemed calm no matter what. And God, I admired that about him. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, almost 4 years before everything happened. I remember spilling wine on his sleeve and apologizing over and over. He just smiled, handed me a napkin, and said, "Guess you owe me a drink sometime." That's how it started. Simple, easy, natural. Ryan was the kind of boyfriend who showed up. He brought me lunch during work crunches, left little notes in my car, remembered every small thing I mentioned. At least at first. He made me believe in the kind of love that doesn't fade. We moved in together after 2 years. A small apartment with big dreams. We talked about buying a house one day, maybe near the lake. I used to fall asleep to the sound of his breathing and think, this is home. And then Lily came back. My sister had always been the wild one. She'd moved from city to city, chasing modeling gigs and part-time jobs that never lasted. She was beautiful, the kind of beautiful that didn't need effort. Wavy brown hair, hazel eyes, that carefree smile that made people forgive her for everything. I loved her, even when she was reckless. When she called me one night crying, saying she'd lost her apartment after a breakup, I didn't think twice. I told her to come stay with us. Ryan agreed right away. Of course, he said. She's family. It felt good to have her around at first. The apartment felt livelier. We cooked together, watched old movies, stayed up late talking about life. Lily and Ryan got along easily. Maybe too easily. But I told myself it was a good thing. I remember one night, we were all sitting on the couch. Lily had just finished telling one of her crazy stories about backpacking through Europe, and Ryan was laughing harder than I'd seen him laugh in weeks. He turned to me and said, "Your sister's hilarious. You two are nothing alike." I smiled, trying to take it as a compliment, but something inside me twisted. Nothing alike. He said it like it was a good thing. After that, I started noticing little things. When I got home late from work, Lily would be on the balcony with Ryan, sipping wine. When we went out as a trio, he'd open doors for her, make her laugh in ways he hadn't done with me in a while. But every time I felt a flicker of doubt, I shut it down. I told myself I was overthinking, that I was jealous, that I was being ridiculous. Because how could the two people I loved most in this world ever hurt me? One Saturday afternoon, I remember walking into the living room and finding Lily sitting close to Ryan, showing him something on her phone. They both jumped slightly when they saw me. She laughed, a little too loud, and said, "We were just looking at some vacation pictures. You should see this one. It's hilarious." Ryan nodded, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. It was nothing. Or at least, I told myself it was nothing. That same week, Ryan started coming home later. "Work's been crazy," he said. I believed him. After all, my own job was demanding too. One night, I was up late finishing a presentation when I heard whispering in the kitchen. It was Lily's voice, low and soft. Then Ryan's. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I remember how quiet they became when I walked in. Lily smiled too quickly. Ryan asked if I needed help. And once again, I told myself it was nothing. I wish I could go back to that moment. I wish I could grab that version of me and tell her, "Open your eyes, Emily, because love makes you blind and family makes you stupid." My parents adored Ryan. They said he was the best thing that ever happened to me. And Lily, she'd always been the favorite. So even when she started making snide comments about how boring my life was or how predictable my routines were, everyone just laughed it off. "She's just teasing," Mom said. But sometimes I caught a glint in Lily's eyes when she looked at me. Something colder than teasing. The shift was subtle. Ryan stopped calling me Em. He stopped holding my hand in public. Stopped asking about my day. But every time I brought it up, he'd sigh and say, "You're reading too much into things. You've been stressed lately." He made me doubt myself. He made me believe I was the problem. And Lily? She started wearing my clothes, borrowing my perfume, asking for Ryan's opinion on her outfits before mine. Sometimes I'd come home to find her sitting in my spot on the couch, laughing at something on his phone. It was my home, my life. But it was starting to feel like I didn't belong there anymore. Then came the night that changed everything. The night before my birthday. Ryan said he had to work late, so I decided to go to bed early. I remember lying there, scrolling through my phone when I saw Lily's bag missing from the hallway. I thought maybe she went out with friends. But when I texted her, there was no reply. I called Ryan. No answer. My stomach sank. It was raining outside. Cold, heavy rain that made the streets look silver. I remember staring at the ceiling, waiting, listening for the sound of the door. When they finally came in, it was almost 1 a.m. They were both laughing. Laughing. Lily's hair was wet, her makeup smudged. Ryan froze when he saw me sitting there. He said, "We ran into each other near downtown, ended up grabbing a late bite. You should have come." And Lily added, "Yeah, Em, you missed out. It was fun." I stared at them. Neither could look me in the eye. That was the first time I felt something break inside me. Something small but final. A quiet crack in my chest. But I smiled anyway, because I was too scared to face the truth. The next morning, Ryan gave me a necklace for my birthday. Simple, elegant, with a small silver heart. He kissed my forehead and said, "You deserve the world." And I remember thinking, then why does this feel like goodbye? I didn't know it then, but that birthday would be the last one I'd ever spend with him. Looking back, I can see all the signs so clearly now. The late nights, the secret smiles, the small lies that built into something monstrous. But when you're in love, really in love, you don't see the danger. You only see the person you want to believe in. And I believed in him. I believed in both of them. Until the day I couldn't anymore. That day, the day I found out the truth, it felt like the world stopped spinning. Like someone pulled the ground out from under me. Everything I knew, everything I trusted, collapsed in an instant. And it all started with a message I was never supposed to see. It was a Tuesday morning. Normal, quiet, the kind of morning where you wake up thinking everything is fine. Ryan had already left for work. Lily was in her room getting ready. I was sipping my coffee, scrolling through emails on the couch, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Ryan. Or so I thought. Except, it wasn't meant for me. The message read, "Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. I'll see you again tonight. Same place?" I remember staring at the screen, blinking, confused. At first, I thought maybe he sent it by mistake. Maybe it was a joke. But then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The nickname he used. He'd written, "Last night was perfect, Lily." My hands went cold. My throat closed. I dropped the phone. The world blurred for a second. Like I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could hear was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I picked up the phone again, reading it over and over. The words didn't change. The name didn't change. He was talking to her. My sister. Lily came out of her room humming, phone in hand. She was wearing one of my sweaters. When she saw my face, her smile faded. "Hey, what's wrong?" I didn't answer. I just held up my phone. "Explain this." Her eyes flicked to the screen. For a split second, she froze. Then she forced a laugh, that same fake laugh she used when she was cornered as a kid. Come on. That's probably a mistake. Ryan must have texted the wrong person." I cut her off. "Don't lie to me." She swallowed. Her face paled. Then she said, softer, "It's not what you think." But it was exactly what I thought. I could see it in her eyes. The guilt, the fear, the shame trying to hide behind calmness. I felt my whole body trembling. "Tell me the truth, Lily. Tell me right now." She didn't speak. And in that silence, I knew everything. Ryan came home that evening like nothing was wrong. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted to hear it from him. I wanted to see if he'd lie to my face the same way Lily had. We sat down for dinner. Lily avoided eye contact. Ryan was talking about some meeting at work, smiling, pretending everything was normal. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I said, "How's your day, Lily?" My tone was sharper than I intended. Lily looked up, startled. "Good." Ryan glanced between us. "Everything okay?" I smiled, cold, tight. "Why don't you tell me, Ryan? Did you and my sister have a good time last night?" The fork froze in his hand. He blinked. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. The message glowed between us. He stared at it, and in that moment, I watched every lie unravel from his face. The shock, the guilt, the denial, all of it flickered across his eyes. Then, like the coward he was, he said, "Emily, please. It's not what it looks like." I laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "Not what it looks like? You texted my sister that last night was perfect. What else could it possibly mean?" Lily whispered, "Emily, stop." "No," I snapped, standing up. "You don't get to tell me to stop. You slept with my boyfriend, Lily." The room went silent. Only the sound of my breathing filled the air, sharp, shaky, furious. Ryan stood up too. "It wasn't planned. It just happened, okay? We didn't mean for it to." I cut him off, screaming, "You didn't mean to?" Tears blurred my vision. "You cheated on me. With my sister. How could you do this to me?" He took a step closer, reaching out. "Emily, I'm sorry." I backed away. "Don't touch me." He stopped, his expression shifting, from guilt to frustration. "Look, it's not like I wanted this. You've been so distant lately. You're always busy with work. I felt lonely." I stared at him, speechless. "You're blaming me?" He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying things weren't the same. And Lily was there. She listened. She understood me." Lily spoke quietly. I didn't want to hurt you. It happened. We didn't plan it. Something inside me broke completely then. Not just anger, heartbreak, betrayal, humiliation. I looked at them, the two people I loved most, standing there together, trying to justify the unforgivable. Get out, I said. They both froze. Emily, wait, Ryan started. I said get out, I screamed, voice cracking. Both of you, out of my house, out of my life. Lily started crying. Please, Em. Don't call me that, I snapped. You don't get to use that name anymore. Ryan hesitated, like he wanted to fix it, but there was nothing left to fix. He picked up his jacket slowly, his eyes full of something that looked like regret, or maybe fear. Lily followed him, crying softly, and when the door finally closed behind them, the silence was deafening. I stood there for a long time. The room felt empty, like the air had been sucked out. My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor. I remember hugging myself, rocking back and forth, whispering, Why? Why would they do this? My phone kept buzzing. Ryan, then Lily, then Mom. I didn't answer. I just sat there in the dark until the sun came up. The next few days were a blur. My parents called, begging me to talk it out. Mom said Lily made a mistake. Don't throw away your relationship with your sister over a man. I laughed through tears. She threw it away, Mom, not me. Ryan tried to reach me too. Texts, calls, emails, each one worse than the last. Please, Em, I messed up. I was confused. It didn't mean anything. I still love you. Can we just talk? I didn't reply. But every message was a knife twisting deeper. A week later, I ran into them, by accident. At a coffee shop near my office. They were sitting together, talking quietly like a couple. She had her hand on his arm. He looked at her the way he used to look at me. When Lily saw me, her face went pale. Ryan stood up instantly. Emily, wait. But I didn't wait. I walked out. I didn't want to hear his excuses anymore. That night, I packed up what was left of his things. His clothes, his toothbrush, the photo frames, the little notes he once wrote me. I put them all in a box and left it by the door. He came by the next morning to get them. I didn't open the door. I just watched from the window as he picked up the box, staring at it for a long time before walking away. It should have felt good, powerful even, but all I felt was empty. The gossip spread fast. Small towns and big families, they talk, people whispered behind my back. Oh, poor Emily. Did you hear what Lily did? Ryan left her for her own sister. I hated the pity. I hated that they saw me as a victim. I went to work pretending everything was fine, but inside, I was falling apart. Everywhere I looked, I saw memories. The cafe where Ryan first kissed me, the park where we planned our future, the sofa where Lily sat laughing with him. Everything became a ghost of what used to be. One night, I found one of Ryan's old letters in my drawer. It said, "You're my forever." I tore it into pieces, and for the first time, I didn't cry. Something shifted in me that night. A strange calm settled over my chest. I realized they had taken everything. My trust, my love, my peace, but they hadn't destroyed me. Not yet. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to stay broken. I was going to rebuild myself. Not for him. Not for her. For me. They thought they had won. That I would fade quietly into sadness while they lived their little fairy tale. But they had no idea what kind of woman they had created in the process. Because the moment I stopped crying was the moment I started changing. The first few weeks after the betrayal felt like living underwater. Everything sounded distant, muffled. I'd wake up, go to work, come home and stare at the wall. The world kept moving, but I couldn't. People kept asking if I was okay. I'd smile, nod, say I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. I was numb. At night, I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Every laugh, every touch, every lie. I'd picture Lily's face next to his and wonder how long it had been going on. Was it weeks? Months? Had they laughed about me behind my back? Had they said I love you to each other? That question haunted me. The when. Because knowing the timeline wouldn't change the betrayal, but it might have helped me understand why. Only there was no why. There never is. People betray you not because you're not enough, but because they aren't. A month later, I saw them together again, this time at my parents' house. Apparently, they decided to make it official. My mother called and said, "Emily, please come to dinner. We need to talk as a family." I said no. She insisted. Against my better judgment, I went. When I walked in, Lily and Ryan were already there, sitting side by side at the table like they belonged together. My parents were tense, pretending everything was normal. I could feel my hands shaking. Lily looked at me with tears in her eyes, as if she was the one suffering. Ryan tried to smile, that same soft, apologetic smile he used when he forgot to buy flowers or was late for dinner. It made me sick. Mom started, "Emily, I know this is hard, but we can't let this tear the family apart. Lily made a mistake." I laughed. "A mistake? Is that what we're calling it now?" "Please," Mom said gently. "Forgive her. She loves him. They both regret how things happened." I looked straight at Lily. "You love him?" She hesitated, then nodded. Her voice cracked. "I do." I stared at Ryan next. "And you love her?" He exhaled. "Yes, I didn't plan it, but I do." The room went silent. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. "Then you deserve each other," I said finally. And I stood up. I didn't slam the chair. I didn't scream. I just walked out, quietly, calmly, even though every step felt like walking barefoot over glass. That was the night I realized I didn't just lose a boyfriend or a sister. I lost my entire sense of home. Because when betrayal comes from the people you trust most, it changes something in you. It doesn't just break your heart, it changes your DNA. I stopped going home for weekends. Stopped answering family group texts. I couldn't stand hearing Lily's name. I deleted old pictures, threw away his things, even changed my number. But no matter what I did, the memories still lingered. The laughter in the kitchen, the smell of his cologne on my pillow. The way Lily used to hug me and say, "You're my favorite person." I felt hollow, like I'd been erased. Work became my distraction. I started volunteering for late projects just to avoid going home. My boss, Jenna, noticed. One night, she stayed back with me and said, "Emily, you look exhausted. What's going on?" I told her everything, and for the first time in weeks, I cried. Not quietly, not politely, but like I was bleeding. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. When I was done, she said, "You can't let them define your story. You have to write a new one." Those words stuck with me. At the time, I didn't believe them, but they stayed in my head like a seed waiting to grow. Still, the nights were the worst. That's when the pain hit hardest, when everything was quiet. Sometimes I'd catch myself scrolling through Lily's social media, pictures of her and Ryan, smiling, happy. It felt like watching strangers wearing faces I used to know. There was one photo that nearly broke me. It was taken in front of the same coffee shop where Ryan and I had our first date. Same spot, same pose, only this time it was her hand in his. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I threw my phone across the room and screamed until my throat hurt. That was my lowest point. That was the night I realized no one was coming to save me. Not my parents, not my friends, and definitely not him. If I wanted to heal, I had to do it myself. So I started small. Tiny things. I cleaned my apartment. Properly cleaned it. Scrubbed every corner, changed the curtains, rearranged the furniture. I took down every reminder of them. And when the place finally looked different, it felt like I could be different too. I started going for runs in the mornings. At first, I could barely make it around the block. But with every step, every breath, I felt something heavy lifting off my chest. Like I was chasing pieces of myself I'd lost along the way. I began journaling, just a few lines each night, my anger, my grief, my confusion. And in those pages, I started to see a version of me I'd forgotten, a strong one. A woman who'd survived worse than heartbreak. Slowly, I started eating again, laughing again, living again. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Months passed. Ryan and Lily moved in together. At least that's what I heard through whispers. I didn't care to confirm it. By then, I'd learned to stop looking back. People kept expecting me to fall apart, to hate the world, to give up on love. But instead, I chose silence. Not weakness. Silence. Because sometimes the loudest revenge is peace. There's power in not reacting, in not giving them the satisfaction of seeing you break. I think that's when they started realizing they hadn't destroyed me after all. It took a full year of rebuilding, of crying quietly, of finding myself again. And by the time I turned 29, I had changed. Completely. I got promoted at work. I moved into a new apartment, bright, modern, with big windows and plants everywhere. I started traveling. I started smiling for real again. And one day, out of nowhere, I realized I hadn't thought about him or her in weeks. That was the moment I knew I'd finally let go. You see, rock bottom isn't the end. It's the foundation you rebuild yourself on. It's where you find your strength, your self-worth, your voice. And mine was only just beginning to rise. Because as fate would have it, the same man who broke me was about to come crawling back, right when I'd learned how to live without him. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It's not like one morning you wake up and the pain is gone. It's slow, quiet, like watching a bruise fade. Still there, still sore, but lighter each day. That's how it was for me. For a while, I lived simply. Work, home, sleep. But little by little, I started doing things just for me. I joined a pottery class on Saturdays. Not because I was good at it, I wasn't, but because it forced me to be patient with myself. There was something soothing about shaping clay with my hands, creating something new out of nothing. It reminded me that broken things can still be remade. I started reading again, books I used to love, ones I'd stopped picking up when my life revolved around someone else's schedule. I'd sit by the window on lazy Sunday mornings, sunlight spilling in, a cup of coffee in my hand, and think, this feels like peace. Slowly, that peace turned into strength. At work, things began to shift too. I stopped hiding in the background and started speaking up. My ideas got noticed. My confidence came back. When my boss promoted me to marketing manager, she said, "You've changed, Emily. You're glowing." I smiled, because she was right. It wasn't just about the job. It was about me finally remembering who I was before I was betrayed. I'd spent so long defining myself through someone else's love that I'd forgotten how to stand alone. But now, standing alone felt powerful. My friends noticed the change too. One night, my best friend Sarah dragged me out for dinner. We hadn't seen each other properly in months. Over wine and pasta, she said, "You seem different. Lighter. What happened?" I laughed. "I stopped letting other people write my story." She grinned. "That's the Emily I know." We talked for hours about life, work, travel, everything. And when I got home that night, I realized it was the first time in a long time that I didn't feel lonely. Just content. A few months later, I decided to take a trip. Just me. No plans, no itinerary, just freedom. I went to Seattle, a city I'd always wanted to visit. I walked through Pike Place Market, ate fresh pastries, watched the sunset over the harbor. It was simple, but it healed something deep inside me. I remember sitting by the water one evening, watching the sky turn gold and pink and thinking, I made it. I survived. That moment, that quiet, ordinary moment, felt like victory. And then, something unexpected happened. My company was launching a big campaign, and I was leading it. We partnered with a financial firm for the project. Guess which one? Ryan's. When I saw the name in the email thread, my stomach twisted for a second. But instead of fear, I felt something else. Calm. I wasn't the same woman he left behind. And if I saw him again, I'd make sure he knew that. 2 weeks later, we had the first joint meeting. It was in a sleek downtown conference room, all glass walls and city views. I walked in wearing a cream blazer, heels clicking on the floor, head held high. I felt powerful, not because of the clothes, but because of the woman wearing them. When I saw him sitting at the table, my breath caught for half a second. He looked almost the same, except older, tired somehow. Our eyes met. For a brief moment, everything went silent. Then he stood up. "Emily," he said softly. "Wow, it's been a while." I smiled, polite, distant. "Yes, it has." There was a flicker of surprise on his face. He wasn't expecting me to be composed. He was expecting the broken version of me he left behind. But she didn't exist anymore. The meeting went on. I kept my focus on work, not him. I led the presentation, answered questions confidently, and when it ended, the clients applauded. Ryan lingered after everyone left. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I looked at him, expression calm. "There's nothing left to talk about." He nodded slowly, eyes downcast. "You've changed." I met his gaze. That's what happens when you outgrow your pain. And then I walked away. That night, he texted me for the first time in years. "You looked amazing today. I'm really proud of you." I stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it. No reply. Over the next few weeks, he kept finding excuses to reach out. Work updates, project notes, small talk. Then it turned personal. "I miss talking to you. I think about you sometimes. Do you ever think about me?" Each message felt like a ghost from a past life trying to claw its way back in. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I didn't need closure from him. I was the closure. Around that time, I got another surprise, a message from Lily. "Hey, Em, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, But I'm sorry. I really am. Things didn't work out between Ryan and me. I messed up. I miss my sister. I read it 3 times. My emotions tangled. Anger, pity, disbelief. They didn't work out. Part of me wanted to laugh. Of course they didn't. They'd built something on betrayal. And things built on betrayal never last. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because forgiveness doesn't always mean reconnection. Sometimes, peace is simply walking away without looking back. 6 months later, the campaign I led went viral. The company threw a big celebration dinner. I stood there that night, surrounded by colleagues clinking glasses, smiling, congratulating me, and I felt free. For the first time in years, I wasn't defined by what I'd lost. I was defined by what I'd become. I had rebuilt a life that didn't need apologies, explanations, or validation. A life that was entirely my own. After the event, I walked outside into the crisp evening air. The city lights shimmered, the streets buzzing with life. I stood there for a while watching people pass by and thought, I made it through the fire. And then, as if the universe was testing my calm, I heard a familiar voice. Emily? I turned. Ryan. He looked different. Thinner. His eyes had that restless guilt people carry when their past finally catches up to them. He smiled weakly. I saw the campaign online. It's everywhere. Congratulations. Thank you, I said simply. He hesitated, shoving his hands in his pockets. I didn't expect to see you here. You look happy. I am, I said. He nodded slowly. You deserve that. You always did. There was a long pause. Then he said the words I never thought I'd hear again. Emily, I made a huge mistake. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. Really looked at him. The man who once shattered me now stood there, small, uncertain, lost. He continued, voice trembling slightly. I thought Lily was what I wanted. I thought she understood me. But she wasn't you. She never was. He took a step closer. I miss you. I think about you all the time. If I could take it all back. I stopped him with a quiet, steady voice. Don't. He froze. You had your chance, I said. You had years to love me right. You chose to betray me instead, and now you have to live with that. His eyes glistened. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I still love you. I smiled faintly, not bitter, not angry, just calm. No, Ryan, you love the memory of who I was, but she's gone. I buried her the day you left. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence said everything. Then I stepped closer, my voice soft but firm. You know what's funny? You thought leaving me for my sister would break me, but it did the opposite. It built me. So thank you. He looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know, I said, but your sorry doesn't change who I've become. And with that, I walked away, heels clicking against the pavement, city lights reflecting in my tears that weren't sadness anymore. They were relief. Relief that it was finally over. For good. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about how strange life is. How the people who break you sometimes become the reason you find your strength. I realized I didn't need revenge. The best revenge was living a life so full, so peaceful, so mine, that he'd never fit in it again. And that's exactly what I plan to do. Expected. Ryan started showing up in my life again. Messages, calls, even random coincidental encounters at work events. At first, I ignored them. Then I noticed something. Each time he appeared, he looked smaller, more uncertain. The man who once walked into my apartment with the confidence of someone who owned my heart now seemed desperate. He had underestimated what I'd become, and I was about to show him exactly what he'd lost. It started at a company gala. I was there representing my team, wearing a tailored navy dress, hair perfectly in place, the kind of presence that demanded attention without saying a word. Ryan was also there, representing his firm. When he saw me, his expression froze. For a split second, I felt a flash of amusement. He expected to see someone broken. Instead, I walked past him like he was invisible, head held high, a champagne flute in hand. A few hours later, our paths crossed again near the rooftop terrace. He tried to speak first. Emily, can we talk? I didn't stop walking. I don't think so, I said lightly, smiling faintly. He frowned. I mean, about us, about what happened. I stopped just long enough to look down at him. Ryan, there's nothing to talk about. You made your choices, I made mine, and mine included moving on without you. His jaw tightened. You don't understand. I shook my head, cutting him off. I understand perfectly. You betrayed me. You chose her over me, and now you've realized you can't fix that. That's on you, not me. Over the next few weeks, he tried everything. Lunches, messages, flowers left at my office, small gestures, all calculated, all desperate, but I didn't respond. Meanwhile, my life continued to grow. I led another major campaign at work, this time with national coverage. I moved into a loft downtown, big windows, skyline views, a home filled with light and warmth. I traveled, I laughed. I dated, cautiously at first, learning to trust myself before anyone else. And all of it was my own. The ultimate revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success. It's being untouchable in the way that matters most, emotionally. It's thriving while they scramble to find a place in your world that no longer exists. The final encounter came about a year after our first meeting at that joint project. Ryan showed up at an industry networking event I was hosting. He approached me with that same old charm, only now it felt weak. "Emily," he said, voice low, "please. I know I messed up. Can we talk for 5 minutes?" I let him speak, mostly because I wanted him to say it, to hear the words, the regret, the truth. "I left you for her," he said, "and I can't believe how stupid I was. She never meant anything. You were always the one I loved." I listened, my hands folded calmly in front of me, my smile polite but distant. "You know," I said finally, "you were always selfish. You wanted what you wanted when you wanted it, and you didn't care about the damage it left behind." His eyes dropped. I know I hurt you, but I still love you." I laughed softly, the sound echoing in the elegant hall. "You still love me?" I said. "Let me tell you something, Ryan. The woman you loved, the one you think you're talking to now, she's gone. I buried her the day you left. And the woman standing here doesn't need you. She doesn't want you. And she sure as hell doesn't love you anymore." His lips parted slightly. "Emily, please." "No," I said firmly, stepping back. "I don't want your apologies. I don't want your explanations. I don't want you in my life, ever." And then I walked away. After that, he stopped trying. Or at least I didn't hear from him. I don't know if he realized the magnitude of what he lost, probably. But it no longer mattered. I realized revenge isn't about making them suffer. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about thriving in ways that leave them staring from the outside, wishing they'd never destroyed what they had. I thrived. I thrived in my career. I thrived in my personal life. I thrived emotionally. And when Ryan eventually reached out, months later, pleading for a second chance, I simply didn't answer. Because some doors once closed are meant to stay closed. And then there was Lily. I ran into her once at a coffee shop. She looked nervous, like she expected me to explode. Instead, I smiled politely. "Hi, Lily," I said. She faltered. "Emily, I'm sorry. Truly. I never should have. I held up a hand. I know. And I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean you get to step back into my life. You lost that chance the day you betrayed me. I hope you understand." She nodded, silent. And as she walked away, I realized for the first time fully, I was free. No anger, no sadness, just peace. The most satisfying part? Watching the world keep moving, watching myself grow, knowing that the people who once shattered my heart now had no place in it. Knowing that my strength, my independence, my happiness, they were mine, untouched, untouchable. I didn't need him to beg. I didn't need her apologies. I didn't need validation from anyone. Because I had already won. And sometimes, that's the only revenge that truly matters. Soft, instrumental music. I looked out over the city from my apartment that night. Lights twinkling, life moving forward, stories unfolding everywhere. And I smiled. Not because I had someone by my side, not because I was loved by anyone, but because I loved myself. Completely. And nothing, not betrayal, not heartbreak, not even the man I once thought I'd spend my life with, could ever take that away from me.